Africa Education Watch is calling for urgent reforms to make the Ghana school feeding program more efficient and accountable. This follows ongoing efforts by the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection to improve the program, which currently supports millions of basic school pupils across the country. Among its key recommendations, the Education Policy Think Tank is urging the ministry to convene a national forum to engage stakeholders on sustainable solutions. And they put out a statement that will be on your screens in a bit. And according to that statement, they have made some observations and are making some recommendations. And among the key recommendations they're making is to expedite the decentralized procurement of caterers and contract management under the Ghana school feeding program, and ensure only financially capable and technically competent caterers are engaged by local government. They're asking that the ministry convene a national forum to elicit stakeholder opinions and seek relevant buy-in on strategies for program reform and improvement. They go on to ask that they liaise with the audit service to audit the current beneficiary data under the Ghana school feeding program, implement a digital tracking system to monitor program delivery, while local governments institute participatory monitoring systems involving district assembly officials. And they go on to say that they're asking for a collaboration with the ministries of finance and local government to facilitate fiscal decentralization of the Ghana school feeding program to local government. And in fact, the statement is on your screen, and I want to get more details on this. Let's speak to the Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, for more insights. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Newsroom. Now, I understand you're asking that the ministry convene a national forum to elicit stakeholder opinions. Does that mean that they haven't engaged stakeholders yet?
Well, when you are reforming, aiming to improve, it is important that you seek the buy-in and support of key stakeholders. And so it is in the interest of the ministry to ensure that that buy-in, is secured from stakeholders. Everyone has a role to play. Civil society organizations have key roles to play in monitoring the program, including the media. And so the extent to which these actors that have critical roles to play in efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability of the program are involved in these reforms would go a long way to ensure that the reforms succeed. And that is why we are calling for that conversation.
Right. And this request for the audit service to audit the current beneficiaries seek to suggest that you have some concerns. Please expatiate for us.
A 2023 audit report of the Auditor General established that amounts in excess of 2 million Ghana cedis were paid wrongfully to caterers by way of paying them more than they should have been paid, or paying them for days they did not cook, and also payments made to caterers who were not contracted, who were not under contract at all. And the Auditor General recommended that the School Feeding Program Secretariat recovers the money. We don't have any information since then. So we've called on the Ministry of Gender to ensure that measures are put in place to collect all the money and update the public accordingly. It is important to note that all the reform recommendations we are making to the ministry, when properly implemented, including the digital tracking system to monitor the implementation at the local level, etc., will ensure that in future the school feeding program does not make overpayments, does not pay people who are not on contract, and then also does not pay caterers for days that they did not cook. When you decentralize the Ghana school feeding program, what you do is that you just don't allow the local governments to procure caterers who are competent and not just politically aligned. Also, you give the local government the capacity to finance the program from within. And that's why we have asked the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Finance, to work together and ensure that as caterers are being procured at the local level, which is the first good step in decentralizing the program, attempts are made to also decentralize the budget of the Ghana school feeding program, such that the Ministry of Finance will release disbursement straight to the local governments, so that payment will be a function between local governments and then caterers. In that case, it's easier for local governments to verify work done, do the necessary due diligence before payment is done. while the school feeding program coordinates at the national level to ensure that there is quality assurance and compliance.
You mentioned that you had engaged the ministry. Prior to this statement, what response did you get when you tabled these concerns before them?
We are told that the ministry has developed guidelines working with local governments to recruit caterers, which is good, because we've always called for a decentralized recruitment and contract management for caterers. But we were not happy that the ministry truncated contracts 2 days to the reopening of basic schools. Because the school feeding program is a catalyst for retention in schools in poor areas. I mean, in areas where poverty is endemic, children are doing 5 to 10 kilometers a day to school. And so the absence of the school feeding program means that because children cannot return, go home and have lunch and return to school, it's affecting, punctuality, it's affecting retention in schools in the 1 week that schools have been reopened. And so we believe that the Ministry of Gender could have done this recontracting better if it had waited and did the recontracting in the month of August and September, which is a long vacation. And so we have advised the ministry that moving forward, we should be mindful of how we truncate contracts and then the period that we re-engage so that it doesn't, unduly affect the educational outcomes of the Ghana School Feeding program.
Right.